From Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. First, the headlines. January 6th committee confirms a big lie was also big ripoff. Omar says 49 million facing famine should be the biggest story in the world right now. U.S. defense contractor in talks to take over NSO Group's hacking technology. UK's deportation of asylum-seekers to Rwanda halted. Expanding its reach, Lululemon now sells hijabs. Our top story tonight. On Monday, the U.S. House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection detailed how the Trump campaign built millions out of supporters with its big lie of a stolen election. Amanda Wick, senior investigative counsel for the committee, said the campaign sent millions of fundraising emails to supporters in the weeks after the election. It was a big ripoff, she said in a video presented on the second day of hearings. The campaign implored voters to step up and help protect the election integrity and to fight back against what it described as the left-wing mob. Those emails garnered $250 million in campaign donations before the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Activists and delegates from national, state, and local U.S. Muslim organizations recently met with congressional leaders to discuss issues affecting American Muslims. They joined in the 7th annual National Muslim Advocacy Day at the U.S. Capitol on Monday and Tuesday. Among them were the Council on American Islamic Relations and the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations, the nation's largest American Muslim civic group. They called for Congress to pass the Combating International Islamophobia Act, sponsored by U.S. Representatives Ilhan Omar and Jan Schakowsky. The legislation would address the rise in global incidents of Islamophobia. It already passed the U.S. House in December. A companion bill in the Senate was introduced by Senators Cory Booker and Ben Cardin, members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and Bernie Sanders. A United Nations study finds Russia's war in Ukraine and a worsening climate emergency have pushed the number of people facing famine to an all-time high. Globally, 49 million people are at risk of famine, according to a study by the Food and Agriculture Organization and the World Food Programme. The study warns tens of millions of people in 46 countries are in need of immediate life and livelihood-saving assistance. U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, a Minnesota Democrat, drew attention to the crisis. A Somali refugee, Omar tweeted Monday in response to the Washington Post story on the United Nations study. She said this should be the biggest story in the world right now. U.S. defense contractor L3 Harris is in talks to take over NSO Group's surveillance technology. The potential deal would give an American company control over one of the world's most sophisticated and controversial hacking tools. Multiple sources have confirmed discussions are centered on the sale of the Israeli company's core technology and a possible transfer of NSO personnel to L3 Harris. Any agreement would require the blessing of the U.S. and Israeli governments. A senior White House official said such a deal raises serious counterintelligence and security concerns for the U.S. government. If a deal is struck, it would mark a turnaround for NSO less than a year after the Biden administration placed the company on a U.S. blacklist. The company is accused of acting contrary to the foreign policy and national security interests of the U.S. Democrat Mana Abdi is running against Republican Fred Sanborn Silvers for the Maine House of Representatives in District 95. Sanborn Silvers has previously said on social media that Muslims should not be allowed to hold public office. Both candidates are political newcomers vying to represent a renumbered and slightly redrawn district spanning a swath of the city Lewiston. Democrat Heidi Brooks has represented the district since 2014, but could not seek re-election due to term limits. 26-year-old Abdi was born in a refugee camp in Kenya and grew up in Lewiston. She is a graduate of the University of Maine at Farmington and works as a program coordinator at the Bates College Office of Intercultural Education. Sanborn Silvers, a Massachusetts native, ran unsuccessfully for elected office in Auburn, Maine, a few times decades ago. Since the 2016 presidential election, he has used social media mostly to bash Democratic leaders, particularly women politicians. On Monday, Islamic scholars and intellectuals gathered in Istanbul, Turkey for an international conference highlighting the Uyghur genocide. The Center for Uyghur Studies tweeted that the conference aims to mobilize public opinion to support the Uyghurs in their struggle with the Chinese government. According to reports and satellite images, since 2016, over 1 million Uyghur Muslims have been detained in re-education camps by the Chinese government. The main purpose of the camps is to ensure adherence to the ideology of the Chinese Communist Party. Chinese authorities have been accused of imposing forced labor, systematic forced birth control, sterilization, and torture, as well as separating children from their imprisoned parents. Several countries, including the U.S., Canada, and the Netherlands, have accused China of committing genocide of the Uyghurs. China denies all of the allegations, claiming the camps are there to combat separatism and what it calls Islamist militancy in the region. The European Commission, a branch of the European Union, is close to restoring funding for the Palestinian Authority. The financial support was withheld due to a controversy over school textbooks, an EU official said. Critics alleged Palestinian school textbooks contain anti-Semitic materials and incitement to violence. Ana Pisonero, EU spokesperson on neighborhood and enlargement, said funds will be released as soon as possible for East Jerusalem hospitals and vulnerable Palestinian families. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen began a series of visits to the Middle East Monday, with Israel and Palestine as the first stops. Von der Leyen is expected to announce this week the release of financial aid that has been withheld since 2021. Lululemon is selling hijabs now. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Billboards are popping up all over the country with an...
Our neighbors don't realize that Muslims are absolutely opposed to ISIS.
Salam. My name is Abdul Malik Mujahid. I'm an imam in Chicago.
16 shots! No me!
No justice!
No me!
So how do we bring up the energy which can really have an impact on the world?
You need to build bridges of understanding among people, and we need to have America moving forward.
That lesson learned brought the strength of humanity to America, which is the diversity.
Mujahid Talks, only on Muslim Network TV. Faithfully connected.
Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Lululemon last week debuted 2 athletic hijabs on its e-commerce site, according to Retail Dive. A third style is expected to launch later this year. The Performance Hijab, which sells for $42, is lightweight and features a pinless over-the-head design intended to stay secure during workouts. The OTM Scarf Hijab, which sells for $38, is made of soft performance fabric in extra length to be worn whichever way suits the wearer. The OTM Pull-On Hijab, which has not yet launched, will be priced at $38. It will be made with soft performance fabric as well and slip on over the head. With these products, Lululemon is catering to an underserved market in athletics. On Monday, 70 Afghan couples tied the knot in an austere mass wedding in Kabul. The ceremony was attended by hundreds of guests and Taliban fighters. Marriage can be a costly affair in impoverished Afghanistan, as it traditionally involves huge dowries, expensive gifts, and lavish parties. Families unable to foot the bill sometimes pool their resources in low-cost, large-scale weddings. Monday's event was one of the largest mass weddings recently witnessed in Afghanistan. The Central Asian nation has been in economic freefall since the return of the Taliban last August. Syrian experts identified 8 possible political, economic, and security gains from establishing safe zones in northern Syria. Experts spoke with Anadolu Agency about these gains, including stability, protecting territorial integrity, and eliminating the threat of separatist terrorism. Safe zones would provide necessary materials and improve agriculture and the economy, they said. They would also encourage the voluntary safe return of Syrians, reconstruction, and ensure the security of neighboring countries, they said. Safe zones in Syria are the areas of the Euphrates Shield, Olive Branch, Peace Spring, and Spring Shield operations carried out by the Syrian National Army forces. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has vowed to complete the implementation of 18 miles of safe zones. The country has accepted the most Syrian refugees in the world, over 3 million since the start of the war in 2011. On Tuesday, human rights campaigners rejoiced after a European court ruling led to the cancellation of a flight to deport asylum-seekers from the United Kingdom to Rwanda. London-based Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigrants tweeted the victory shows, "When we come together, we can beat this government's toxic anti-migrant agenda." The UK group Freedom from Torture said on social media, "We know the government won't be giving up." Both groups vowed to keep up the fight. JCWI said it's morally repugnant to trade human beings for cash, referring to the money the UK gives Rwanda under the deal. BBC News reported up to 7 people had been expected to be removed to the East African country. A ruling from the European Court of Human Rights in the case of a 54-year-old Iraqi asylum seeker led the remaining men to appeal their cases. Leaders of prominent Islamic groups and mosques in India appealed to fellow Muslims on Monday to suspend protests against derogatory remarks about Prophet Muhammad. The comments were made by 2 members of the ruling Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party. The call to suspend protests came after demonstrations took a violent turn last week. They led to the death of 2 Muslim teenagers and injured more than 30 people, including police. Malik Aslam, a senior member of the Jamaat-e-Islami Hind, a Muslim organization that operates in several Indian states, called for maintaining peace. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif criticized India for unleashing its oppressive apparatus to browbeat Indian Muslims into submission. 2 senior spokespersons for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP made derogatory remarks to offend Muslims last month. The party suspended both of them and condemned any insult toward any religion. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Imam Malik Mujahid in Chicago. Just like you, I was moved by that Allahu Akbar lady. She stood her ground, fearful of none, for her hijab and for her education. Sisters and brothers, Indian Muslims are facing a genocide. India does not care for Muslim protesting, but it does care for the world opinion. Therefore, we must push the United Nations. The UN has a responsibility to protect. They must prevent genocide. Please sign this UN petition now. Get others to sign. It will help. Trust me, it will help. We need 1 million signatures, brothers and sisters. Please sign now.
They took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help.
Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. To discuss what American Muslims think about gun control laws, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
According to Washington Post, 311,000 children have experienced gun violence at school. 185 have been killed because of it, and 369 have been injured. It's a serious issue in America. People are discussing it. Is something going to be happening or not? But what do Muslims think? Muslim Americans are around. They got opinion on multiple issues. And to discuss that with us is Ikramullah, who is a research project manager at ISPU. Welcome to Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So what are the findings of ISPU survey regarding Muslims' opinion on gun control?
Thank you so much for the question and for taking the time to cover this very important issue and topic. So in our recent American Muslim poll fielded earlier this year, we included a question about views on laws protecting the sale of firearms. We asked respondents whether they believe these laws should be made more strict, less strict, or kept the same. And after analyzing the data, the biggest takeaway finding from our analysis is that the majority of Muslims, 65%, believe current gun laws should be made stricter, which is on par with most other groups surveyed, or more likely. So we're on par with Jewish Americans, Catholics, and the non-affiliated, and more likely to say that gun laws should be stricter than Protestants, white evangelicals, and the general public.
So you asked that question early this year. Do you think based on what has happened in the last few months, more and more Muslims will be asking for a stricter gun control?
That's a really good point. With the more recent string of gun violence occurred after we fielded our survey. So it is possible that perhaps now it's more of an issue for people than at the time we were fielding.
I thought one of the most significant finding of your survey is that Black Muslims want less restrictions than any other type of Muslims. What are the reasoning for it?
So I just want to take a moment to clarify that finding and make sure it's really clear. So as I mentioned, the question we asked was, in general, do you feel that laws covering the sales of firearms should be made more strict, less strict, or kept as they are now? And what we found is that 63% of Black Muslims say that laws should be more strict. So on the whole, the majority of Black Muslims say that gun laws should be made more strict. Now, when we look separately at those who say they should be they should be less strict, that's the only place where we found a difference. But the overall takeaway is that Black Muslims are as likely as all other Muslims in that a majority say that gun laws should be made more strict.
Dwell on that. Those who say there should be less restriction, because I live among blacks. I see a whole lot of them owning arms now or applying for license. One was complaining there is not enough ammunition available and it is on quota. Every month, every week, they can get only so much. So there seems to be a trend in overall in this society of gun ownership. In that view, black Muslims are being more inclined to ask for less restriction is something to focus on. So can you elaborate a little more on this?
Sure. So as I mentioned, the majority of Black Muslims do say gun laws should be made more strict. However, when we look at the third response, or the response to the question of those who say it should be less strict, we found that 21% of Black Muslims say gun laws should be made less strict, compared with 10% of white Muslims and 8% of Asian Muslims. So that's where we found the difference, just in that one point.
How many black in general are looking for less restrictions?
In the general public, so when we compare Black Muslims to Black Americans in the general public, so again, 21% of Black Muslims say that gun laws should be made less strict, compared with 9% in the general public.
9% general public or 9% Black American public?
Sorry, the Black Americans in the general public.
This is significant. More than double Black Muslims would like less restrictions on gun as compared to other Black Americans. That's a very significant finding. It's worth writing an article or elaborating further or discussing it. But tell me, Muslims, you ask a question, Muslim responded to that, but is the domestic agenda, which all Americans at this moment seems to be consumed, and a rare bipartisan understanding has come into being about somewhat more restricting gun laws. But how active Muslims are in participating in this particular debate in the country?
That's a really good question. So like all other Americans, Muslims are exposed to this issue of gun violence, right? Just like all other Americans, Muslims are parents, they're teachers, they're students, they're people who, go out shopping in the supermarket, they frequent places of worship. And these are all places that, unfortunately, where we've seen gun violence occur. So Muslims are as likely as others to be exposed to this gun violence. So in that sense, it is a relevant topic. And especially with, the recent string of gun violence, it's likely that this issue is top of mind. And like all other faith and social justice communities, the Muslim community also has advocacy groups paying attention to this issue. In fact, last week, the National American Muslim Policy Conference was held, and attendees were encouraged to contact their legislators using a letter drafted by the American Muslim health professionals advocating for stricter gun laws. So this issue is definitely being worked on within the Muslim community.
Your report in its preface says that mass shooting is a uniquely American problem. Could you help us with some obvious answer to that? Why?
Sure. And I do want to clarify that point is not based on ISPU data, but based on other research that shows that America is an outlier when it comes to gun deaths. So I want to be clear that we're talking about gun violence and not overall crime. So where the US is an outlier is in gun deaths and gun violence. So America has 6 times as many firearm homicides as Canada and nearly 6 times as many as Germany. And so when you look overall, on average, there's around 1 mass shooting for each day in America. And this just doesn't occur in other countries based on the data.
Well, thank you so much, Erum Ikramullah, for your time. Erum Ikramullah is a research project manager at ISPU. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Imam Mujahid. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.